Spoilers for this game, if that wasn't already obvious enough. Wow, 2023 has been quite the year for gaming. Two of the most anticipated releases, all occurring around the same time of this year. And many underrated gems that I'm still looking forward to play in the future. But throughout all of the open world games, all of the amazing 2D sprite-based platformers, and of course, the narrative-driven, heart-wrenching RPGs, one game that I have played recently has captured my heart as being a true masterpiece, and quite the game to leap this year off on a banger. This game I am talking about is, of course, the highly anticipated Undertale Yellow. An Undertale fan game that's been in the works for almost 7 years. Having completed the pacifist route and seen some of the alternative endings, I've gotta say, it's quite the spectacle to behold. I can't believe that a fan was so able to meticulously recreate the feeling, style, and aesthetics of the original Undertale. A game, mind you, that has such an overwhelming sense of style and personality that it is yet to be recreated by any RPG that I've played since its release. It's just truly that unique. But somehow, they were able to do it. Master Sword Remix and their team of talented creators were able to craft truly amazing art that even surpasses the original game in some aspects. I could go on and on all about the various aspects of this game I love. The brilliant, vibrant, gorgeous art style that carries throughout the entire adventure. Seriously, look at this stuff. Dialogue and character writing that keeps the original game's iconic wittiness while still being heartfelt and genuine the entire time. I could talk about the amazing battle system, which is revamped and better than ever, with enemy designs and attack animations that leave me absolutely stunned, paying more attention to the game itself rather than my own health bar. Everything about this game just screams passion and cares about the subject matter that they were trying to work with. I really think it has turned out pretty faithful in the end, but since there's just so much to talk about in such a masterful piece of art, I think I'll talk about what I think makes the game such a masterpiece, and what all games could take a pin out of to improve their overall experiences with. That thing I am talking about, of course, is the characters. The characters are the blood and soul of what make Undertale Yellow such a masterpiece, and most games for that matter. When I came walking into this game, I had one crucial worry on my mind. Will this fan game be able to make compelling, fully realized characters that fit right into the game's world and the world of Undertale? Or will we get some more edgy nonsense that has been plaguing the fanbase since the game's initial launch? And boy, I've gotta say, that fear of mine completely dissipated as soon as I read the first line of dialogue from the first major boss in the game. This game creates fully realized characters and NPCs that feel like real people with real lives. They each have their own goals and wants in life. Despite the game's obvious cartoony nature, you just can't help but feel the charm between each and every little creature that you come across in the underground. From the goofy cat to the charming storekeepers. This game makes you care about all of them, through its clever use of dialogue and its great use of comedy. Some notable standouts amongst the cast for me were Martlet, all of the Feisty Five, especially Starlo, Axis, and probably the best written character in the entire game, Soroba. Though Undertale itself had quite the small cast of central characters, I feel like it actually worked to its advantage, as it allowed every central area in the game to be tailored to a specific individual character, and thus the player naturally would grow more attached to them over time. I'm glad that this fan game took that approach with the characters as well. It allows the newly established characters to not only stand out more, but also have more depth and nuance with their personalities, instead of having to focus on too many figures at once. Dalv, the first major monster you meet in the game, is a shy shut-in who yearns for the friendship and love of others, but has small trust issues, obviously due to the events that happened with him and another human a while ago. You get to see different nuances in his personality, like how he really enjoys your company when you spare him in the pacifist route, or how he doesn't want to leave the dark ruins in the neutral route, because you still killed some monsters, and he still doesn't trust humans even though you spared him. I just gotta say, all these characters have amazing striking designs as well. The character designers took great care to make sure that each and every one of their new characters would fit in right into Undertale's style and aesthetic in terms of their great character design, and boy did they succeed. Everyone in this game just simply looks amazing. Moving on, Martlet is a very much Papyrus-like character in her own right, but deviates from his steps in quite the unique fashion. Her naive personality and stubbornness to be a good royal guard makes her quite endearing to the player, if a bit clumsy at times. She always tries to keep things on the positive side, even in the most dire of situations. She never tries to let the full hopelessness of the underground situation get to her, and in the genocide route in particular, This combination of character traits leads to probably one of the most tragic and gut-wrenching boss fights in the game, especially in the third attempt when she finally tries to actually kill Clover. The scene of her begging, man. Pure chills. Or how about the Feisty Five? Each one of its members brewing with personality and flair that put even the main characters of some AAA games to shame. In order of least to greatest in my opinion, Ed, a giant pink brute-like monster, acts as the muscle of the team, but slowly through subtle appearances and dialogue, we eventually see how he truly cares for all of the members, and how he feels heartbroken when some of the decisions Starlo makes feels like they don't pertain to the group's overall interest. Ace, a stoic humanoid monster that seems like he's trying way too hard to be cool, is a character that is initially pretty cold towards Clover and Starlo's antics to get the player acquainted with the Feisty Five. But eventually, he starts to open up and show that he really acts this way because he's a little scared to show his more passionate side. Murray, a non-binary humanoid fish-like monster that has an absolutely fabulous character design. The way they attempt to make every action of theirs extra with overwhelming style and stage presence is quite charming and hilarious at the same time. And finally, Mooch, this incredibly adorable squirrel-like creature that's a kleptomaniac. She has by far the most goofiest personality of the group. Her reluctance to deal with anyone's BS and willingness to be the most loudmouth of the entire bunch is purely just amazing to behold. All of these members are so unique and charismatic in their own right, but they pale in comparison to the genuine character development and growth that is their leader, Starlo. Starlo is a character obsessed with the style and aesthetic of classic Wild Western culture. He's initially in his full persona, acting like he's the biggest cowboy in the big Wild West, but as he slowly starts to develop a bit of an ego, and his friends start to become more and more tired of his shenanigans, his layers are peeled back to reveal a more vulnerable, insecure personality. It is revealed that he's a bit of a nerdy guy. His parents' house reveals tons of memorabilia and artifacts that would fit right in with a museum of some kind, and it is stated by his parents that he actually had a crush on Coba, the fox lady. But in the end, he was unable to win her heart over. His tough guy persona, then, could be seen as a way of coping or avoiding these unwanted feelings of inferiority or vulnerability that he feels in his life. It's a really gratifying character progression, and one of the many highlights of the game. The whole Dune area as a whole is one that you'll be probably spending the most time with, and it's truly the beacon of this game's purpose. Most of the important events in the game happen in the dunes, and it's by far the place you'll be spending the most time with. As such, I found this to be probably the most enjoyable area in the game, with all the NPCs being hilarious and fun to talk to. But that then gets completely disregarded for the amazing story progression and lore building that the location Steamworks provides. This is probably the second longest place you'll be spending in the game, with most of the core events of the story being explained in here. On to Axis, the robot protagonist that chases you a good majority through Steamworks, and the character that is obviously supposed to be this game's megaton, but in my opinion surpasses him in many regards. First off, I just gotta say that this setting is truly amazing, despite how long it is. Axis is another pretty charismatic character that oozes personality. His comedic attempts to apprehend Clover and Coba, along with the hilarious reactions he has to their handcrafted robot you create, are some of the funniest interactions I've seen for a game in a while. Did I mention this game is funny as hell? Because if not, you probably have already gotten that by now. Of course, I can't mention Axis without discussing an absolutely insane scene he has with Clover in the genocide route. When Clover, the player, finally learns that Axis had to kill one of the other humans that fell down here, you suddenly get a crazy boost in levels, knowing that information, which just brilliantly foreshadows what the true intentions of Clover coming down to the underground were, and as such, provides a moment of genuine terror, as after this moment and this horrific murder scene, even Flowey seems to be a bit terrified of the monster Clover has become. It's just overall amazing writing, and a cool moment in the story that makes it stand out all the more. But of course, amongst all of the characters in Undertale Yellow, from all the lighthearted bosses to the more wacky NPCs, one character stands among them all as being the real star of the show, and that character is Coba Ketsukane. Coming into my playthrough, she was actually the only character I knew prior to starting. This gave me the feeling that she was probably going to be a major player in the game's story, and oh boy was I understating that by quite a bit. Coba is probably one of the most tragic characters in the entire Undertale series in my opinion. She serves as the primary antagonist for the game, and has a very compelling character arc that climaxes at the end of the game. With the very hard boss fight and the pacifist route, Coba gets introduced to the player as a sort of stoic guardian figure for the dunes and its inhabitants. She acts to scold Starlo when he's really acting juvenile, and even takes you to his house after the battle so that you can get to know his story more clearly. So right off the bat, she just seems like a nice, normal, supportive ally in your journey for you to get along with. As you progress, however, more and more slowly gets revealed about her, and things are not as they seem. It is eventually revealed to you that she has a daughter named Kanako she's looking for. Under that guise, Starlo asks you to accompany her to Steamworks in order to help her out. During this quite lengthy part of the game, she slowly reveals more and more about her past life that she and her husband Chujin used to live. Chujin, a tragic character in his own right, was the first scientist of Asgore before Alphys came along. He's responsible for a good majority of the technology and robots that you find in Steamworks, but he's also responsible for making this toxic serum that, while temporarily boosts the power of any monster in the underground, after its usage, it turns their corpse into this white, rotting, decrepit oat spunk that ceases to have any color or texture, reducing them to a withering husk of their former selves. It is heavily implied that this is the reason for him getting fired, and later his death sure after, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Coba and her whole family's dilemma is probably the most compelling storyline in the game for me. The way everything slowly unravels to reveal the truth is so satisfying and so emotionally gripping. I can't state enough how much of a joy it is to experience. It slowly gets revealed that sometime in the underground, Kanako and the other monster, which this is also heavily implied to be Dalv, get attacked by a human, one which people speculate to be the Brave Soul Kid, and badly injuring one of them. This drives Chujin completely mad with rage, and then he attempts to find a more permanent solution to deal with the human problem that the underground keeps facing. This incident eventually leads him to test with various specimens, including himself, the serum that would turn even an average monster into a boss monster soul, one capable of actually waging war with the humans. With this, he planned on creating an army in order to finally fight back and stop the injustice and cruelty that the monsters have been facing all this time. It all comes to an end, unfortunately, when he injects himself with the formula, ending up killing himself in the process. But not before leaving his final wishes and research to Coba and Kanako. We receive all this information in this gut-wrenching scene where all is made perfectly clear to the player. Coba is not taking you to find her daughter, but instead, she is using you as the final human soul to complete Chujin's monster serum and perfect it. As the final events of the story draw near, it is increasingly made clear that Coba is the final villain of Undertale Yellow in the pacifist route. She has thrown away all sense of morality in order to satiate her thirst, and in turn her husband's as well, thirst for revenge and justice upon the humans that have made their lives a living hell and have hurt so many of their brethren. Even more tragically, it is revealed in her final battle that she actually attempted to use the serum on her own daughter, becoming obsessed with finishing the research. This makes her actions especially egregious, seeing that she was trying to lie the entire time about them going to search for her daughter, when in reality, she was already dead to begin with. And I just gotta say, on a tangent, this entire final boss sequence is masterful game design. From the build-up that you have by having the player journey back all the way through Steamworks to get to Coba, now with the full truth uncovered to you, to the amazing catharsis any Undertale player gets from hearing the remix song Medium, which is brilliantly named to contrast another medium from the original game in Hotland. It all builds up to create this amazing ambience and sinking feeling they get from traveling up the elevators and the gorgeous cityscape itself to reach the final confrontation with Coba. This moment works so well, not only because it sends a wave of nostalgia for veteran Undertale players who are finally being rewarded for their patience by finally being able to go to the iconic Hotland, but it also serves as an amazing emotional beat. As another medium, the song itself rings out like a crying melody to the lost souls and tragic past of Coba. It all comes to a head right here, right now. The actual boss fight that combines breathtaking pixel animation with stellar musical cues and sound effects makes the whole encounter feel truly invigorating. I mean, just take a look at this. And man, the conclusion to such a fight, the pure emotional override that you get when you have to navigate such a difficult fight, only for you to cut back right to the intense emotional appeal of why you're doing this in the first place. It creates an amazing contrast, mechanically and narratively, that hits the player right in the heartstrings. But all of this, All of the narrative through lines, all of the characterization that you do over this long campaign comes to a brilliant ending when you finally choose to spare Soroba, despite all of the heinous actions she's committed in the story. Even though all she's put you through, you still have it within yourself to spare her and find another way to resolve things. And this moment is what I think finally led me to believe the reason why I think this game is a true masterpiece. And that is the character of Clover himself. Throughout the core of Undertale's narrative, the themes and ideas that this game series tries to push into the player is that of morality. Each of the 8 children's souls represents an aspect of morality in some way or another. And for the titular character of this game, that trait is justice. Soroba is such a brilliant character and villain, specifically because she acts as the perfect foil to the main character, Clover. It's no secret that the real reason Flowey speaks of for Clover even being down here in the first place is that of revenge. Clover is down there to seek justice and retribution for the 6 souls that were taken away from the children that fell down into the underworld. Just as Soroba seeks vengeance for what the humans did to the underground, Clover, if decided to go on a more twisted storyline of events, justifies his killing of innocents as vengeance for what the monsters did to humankind. It's a never-ending cycle of violence that will continuously exacerbate if either parties can't find it within themselves to have mercy. Even if he's completely justified to want retribution in the case of Soroba and her actions, he takes the forgiveness path, the path of sparing her such a fate and an opportunity to have a second chance. He chooses justice. But that's just the thing, right? Clover already sealed his fate the moment he stepped down into the underground. He was ready to face a world that was cruel and apathetic to the plight of humanity, but instead, through kindness, he is able to discover that humans and monsters aren't so different in the first place. My interpretation of this story is that in the pacifist ending, Clover recognizes the burden that his and all humans' actions have on the underground world and its inhabitants. He recognizes that this is a war that no one truly wants, but in reality was started by a huge misstep on behalf of the humans that has led to a rift in the 2 respective worlds. He recognizes that he has no right to seek vengeance because they were the first ones to fire the first bullet, and as such, Clover chooses to do the most just thing any human can do, and that is to die and give up his soul for the sake of humanity and monster kind, and in doing so, hopefully do his best to amend any transgressions that humans have caused on this oppressed group of people. Undertale Yellow is amazing, not only because it has phenomenal music, not only because it has stellar animation throughout every pixel of this gorgeous RPG, and not even because it has phenomenal character writing. It's such an amazing game simply because it was made 100% purely for the passion of the medium. The game truly cares about Undertale's universe and its compelling themes, characters, and writing. The game truly cares about the player. It wants anybody playing the game to gain this heartfelt message away from it, whether through one means or the other. It's a game that wants to have meaning in its narrative and tone. Throughout all of the games that were released this year, all of the cash grabs, the borderline scams, and unfulfilling experiences that people have been met with over the course of 2023, this game stands out among them all as being a 100% passion project made completely from the hard work and soul of others. And that's why Undertale Yellow is by far my favorite video game of this year. That's why I believe Undertale Yellow is a true Hello everyone, I just want to thank you for making it this far into the video. I know this one is pretty out there for the usual kind of content I make, but as I stated in the past before, I'm looking to branch out more and explore different video games and different genres of media. If it wasn't clear from this video already, I'm a huge fan of storytelling and story writing. It's always such an interesting topic to me, the way people infuse their feelings into the media they create and the artwork they make. I don't know, something like that just resonates with me a lot. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share with a friend. This year has been quite the growth for my YouTube channel, and I don't plan on slowing it down anytime soon, so I hope you enjoy all the content I create. Have a nice Christmas, and cheers to the new year.